iRacing right now.
He's got traction, he's going around the outside of both of them! Maloney!
Oh, he's taken Anderson! Anderson's up the
Oh my god! Big crash! Oh my goodness, half the field's going to get rolled!
Second very close. These guys are going to want to make their way through the field very quickly. Oh, here we go! Oh no! That's massive! This is it! This is over! I can't believe this! Oh my god!
God, what?
This is iRacing, the world's premier online racing game. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat to experience today's newest form of competitive motorsport, virtual racing, all from your home PC. Race virtually in indoor series from NASCAR, IndyCar, IMSA, the World of Outlaws, Aussie Supercars and more. Take on legendary circuits like Daytona, Silverstone and the Nürburgring. Join iRacing's global online racing community and get on track today at iRacing.com.
Well, we go from the high-banked turns and long straights of Daytona to the twists and turns of Okayama. This has been a fantastic series to showcase here on SimSpeed TV, and I'm kind of sad that this is the second last round 5 of 6 of the V8 Drive Day Perth Southern Cross Esports Summer Series. And to bring it to you all live here on SimSpeed TV is myself, Reese Gardner, and Jay Kennedy alongside me. What a great series this has been, Jay. Said it before, we'll say it again. Nothing but action all the way through. Great format, great racing. And this time we go to Japan. I'm looking forward to this.
Yeah, it's been a fantastic series, as you said. It's been really entertaining, been some great racing. And not just at the front as well. We've seen battles the whole way throughout the field. And any given night, the format means that anyone literally can win because the field is spread. The field gets separated after that race one with a reverse top 12. Makes it very, very entertaining.
That it does. Let's take a quick look at Okayama International Circuit. Built in the early 1990s, it hosted the Formula One Pacific Grand Prix in 1994 and 1995. The layout's only gone through an ever so slight change, the widening of turns 3 and 4. You should be able to see on the right side of your screen. Only 11 turns around here, but a lot of them are preceded by heavy braking zones, and of course we have that double hairpin of Redman and Hobbs at the end of the lap, which should provide some very interesting side-by-side action. Of course, the biggest passing opportunity is into the aptly named hairpin at the end of the long back straight.
Yeah, a circuit that was set up mainly for club drivers to get rich businessmen to come and spend their money driving cars around, but as you said, hosted Formula One twice and only stopped hosting Formula One because it became a bit of a logistical nightmare for the teams to get to. But it's a really cool circuit. On paper, it doesn't look too exciting, but some really cool elevation change as well to make the track a little bit more exciting as well. Format for tonight, though, that's something else that's pretty exciting. It's been very, very entertaining and added some great battles and provided some great racing.
That it has. 15-minute race 1, 25-minute race 2 with a reverse top 12 and a compulsory pit stop. And you have to pit for 4 tyres at that compulsory pit stop. So in race 1 tonight, we'll be keeping some extra focus on the driver in position 12, or those fighting for it. And this is how the standings stack up. Trevor Leonard, it's been an absolutely dominant run from him over the course of this series. Gianni Lutzu, unfortunately missing around due to vacation. He's down in 3rd there behind Mason Harvey. But that battle for 5th between between Brody Watts and Mike Pepper looking rather close, especially the back bit of the top 10 as well. Look at the difference there between Sam Dicker and Grant Johnson.
Yeah, and just behind there too is not far away. Tyson Broad's only 4 points further back. Rob Crisdale's only 13 points back, so you've pretty much got, well actually, on top of that, Alexander Newton another point further back from Crisdale. So 13 drivers that are in contention to get top 10, and the 8th through to 13th battle is separated by only 18 points. So that could be a huge swing just in one race tonight, let alone a 2-race format that we've got here.
Absolutely. Looking forward to seeing how things stack up, especially because there's a little bit of medical trouble for Trevor Leonard, our championship leader. He messaged me a little bit before we went live saying that he has a massive migraine, so he might be off the pace. Well, considering that, if we can bring up the timing tower, goodness me, it has not made him suffer at all. He set the exact same time as P1 Gianni Lutsu.
Yeah, I was a bit confused when I got my timing up before, and I looked and it said Trevor Leonard P2 on one screen and then Trevor Leonard P1 on one screen. I thought, what's going on here? Why is my timing not working properly? But it is because they got literally the same time, a 1 minute 26.381. Very, very rare that you see two drivers with exactly the same time. Even more rare that you see it in P1.
Well, I think it just speaks to how much Lutsu and Leonard have pushed each other over the course of this season. They've been the main protagonists at the front of the field, getting the most points and battling quite hard with each other for those race victories. It's been awesome to see. Oh, there we go. That's Mason Harvey going to P1, but it's still a tie for P2, which is good to see. Mason Harvey for Energy Motorsport. He's making it a 1-2 for that team. Gianni Lutsu is his teammate. So Mason Harvey getting himself in with a run here to get himself a little bit closer to Trevor Leonard in P1 in the championship. Remember, Harvey is currently P2 in the standings. But at this point in the season, there's only going to be one round to go after this. Unless it's an absolutely horrible night for Trevor Leonard, he will be champion-elect coming into the final round at Mount Panorama, as we ride on board with Mindset's Ray Oliver, also doing well in P5.
Yeah, Ray Oliver's been a bit of a quiet achiever, hasn't he? The races he's been able to turn up for, he's done very, very well in. He's missed a couple of races, had a couple of bad results. Oh, that's a big send, and I think that's a bit too deep. Better to get that out of the way in practice than in the race. But one of the underrated things about this track is actually how deep you can push it into that corner at the hairpin, because you are going uphill, downhill down the straight. It does deceive you a little bit, and it does draw you in to brake a little bit later than you actually can. Grant Johnson on screen, another driver who we've been very impressed with throughout this season.
Yeah, Johnson, as we saw in the standings graphic, is P10 in the standings, and the Platinum Roof Coating driver certainly making himself known in the midfield at the moment. 10th place for him in the practice session. And of course, Johnson is one of those drivers in this series with plenty of real-life racing experience. He's a former V8 Utes champion in the real world, is Grant Johnson. It's awesome to see so many personalities and drivers and even staff members from the world of real-life motorsports taking part in this series and having a bit of fun here on the iRacing service. And you can also see that the track has got quite a bit of use now. Plenty of rubber being laid down on the track, which is certainly helping Johnson to get some traction out of the hairpins.
A bit of UV on the track as well. I mean, extremely hot track conditions. At the moment, it's nearly 56 degrees Celsius out on track with these midday conditions in Japan. Of course, midday summer sun in Japan, quite hot, just like it is here in Australia. So no surprise to see these sort of track temps. But that will hurt drivers that push these tyres a little bit hard, and it probably will mix up the tyre pit stop strategy as well. We'll probably see a lot more guys go right in the middle as opposed to try and overcut or an undercut like we've seen in other rounds.
Yeah, it does equalise things out a little bit in terms of how you split the strategy in race 2, so pit lane is likely going to be a hive of activity. It's going to be interesting to see how things go in race 2. Turd Motorsport. Well, Turd stands for Those Epic Racing Dudes, if you're curious. Dean Hunt. Yeah, absolutely. Dean Hunt trying his best to get some better times on the board. He's on a 28.2 at the moment down in the field. But there's no time left for practice. It is time for qualifying here at Okayama International Circuit. And I'm interested to see who's going to be able to set the best time here. Mason Harvey managed to get P1 in practice, but will he be able to hold on to it? Well, it looks like the Energy Motorsport duo are leading the charge out of the pits. It is Harvey and Lutsu. way ahead of everyone else at the moment in terms of track position as the drivers gradually filter out onto the track. Justin McLean has found a little bit of space on his lonesome, and that looks like might be an unsafe pit exit right there. Driver in question might have to jump back in and clear the penalty that iRacing gives him, because it's one thing that a lot of drivers newer to iRacing don't immediately understand is that blue line running across the exit of the pits. You can't cross over that blue line onto the racetrack, sorry, until you've crossed over that blue line. Otherwise, you will get an unsafe pit exit penalty.
We saw that last night in the AOG Porsche Cup, didn't we? We saw Dylan Burst get 3 separate penalties, all for the exact same thing: crossing the blend line too early, crossing that pit exit line before he exited that blue line of the actual official pit exit. So making sure you don't cross over it too early can hurt you, and it will give you a penalty. It's a 40-second stop and hold, so it's an extremely huge penalty, as that's a bit too aggressive for Mason Harvey on his first attempt to start a flying lap. Won't be an attempt now. He's going to have to go again and do the whole out lap again.
It's a shame there for Mason, and he's going to have to go slowly out of the pits because he's got a long line of cars here all starting their hot laps. He's going to have to let them all go, and they don't have much time to get their lap times in here. Justin McLean is the lead of the drivers currently on a lap. Gianni Lutzu backed off at the end of his out lap and fell behind him. So the Loud Signs driver here of Justin McLean got a nice clear track ahead of him, but maybe a slight disadvantage because he's not going to have any slipstream down this long back straight, and that is quite important in some cases.
Wondering if that's the reason Gianni Lutzu actually backed off, was to make sure that he did have draft in case Mason Harvey was too quick and pulled away, or was a bit worried that he wasn't quite close enough to start the lap. Or the other part of that is he didn't want to give Justin McLean any draft at all. This lap has looked very, very smooth from Justin McLean. Isn't lighting the world on fire in regards to sector times, but it's not a horrible lap.
It's looking nice and clean, and you see him taking a late apex and a narrow exit as well to try and open up that right-hand hairpin. He unfortunately missed the apex ever so slightly, so that would have cost him a couple of tenths, but into the final turn he comes, and it's very inviting to go all the way across the AstroTurf there on the exit, but as Mason Harvey found out, you dip a wheel into the gravel and that is your lap done. So first time on the board is Justin McLean, 27.29, but Gianni Lutzu immediately takes almost a full second out of that. Trevor Leonard sets a 26.4 to go in P2. Tyson Broad to P3, 7 tenths behind Lutzu at the moment. Good flow of times coming in. Alex Zani going to P5 as things stand, and Mike Pepper and Neil Woodburn immediately pipping him. Pepper now in 4th place as we see John Lee coming to the end of his lap.
He had a little bit of a mistake through the middle sector of the lap, so he's actually lining up for another flying lap. Another section of the track that can be quite inviting as well is the second to last corner. You can be quite aggressive over that curb at the second last corner, and what that will do if you do get too aggressive there will actually give you a slowdown penalty for being overly aggressive. So there's a very, very fine line on what is a perfect corner and what actually will give you a slowdown penalty. Finding that balance is quite difficult to do. You'll see it here, the curb, very inviting, but as soon as you get over and touch that yellow line, that's a slowdown penalty. Very, very easy to do, especially when you're in the heat of battle.
Well, Bent Johannesson has managed to avoid it for the time being, and his time will be a 28.0 to start off his qualifying run. And that is quite a ways off what the likes of Lutzu and Leonard and Broad are doing. Well, actually, Lutzu and Leonard rather, as Gianni Lutzu improves. 26.251, and Justin McLean gets into the 1 minute 26s. It looks like a lot of drivers might be going for 2-lap runs here. Mason Harvey's going to come up to the end of his first qualifying lap here. Let's see if he can challenge the likes of Lutzu, Leonard, and McLean. It's going to be a 26, and it's a 26.393. Actually, 26.426 as the time updates, and that is going to put him smack dab between Trevor Leonard and Justin McLean in P3.
Very good lap though. That's still an incredibly good lap time. Of course, he had that issue on his first attempt, so he lost the best of the track conditions, but still managed to only be a 10th off. Good lap there from Clint Harvey as well. He'll jump from 13th up to 4th. Great lap.
Excellent stuff from the Direct Industries driver. Awesome stuff. We're seeing drivers improving quite well here as we enter the middle stages of this qualifying session. Car number 13, Alex Newton for Team Racecraft Simulations. He has got a little bit of extra work to do. His fastest lap is 27.8, and a little bit of a lockup. Was that him or the driver ahead?
There's been lots of smoke, so I'm not sure if it's him or if it's been everyone around him, but looking at the sector times that he's doing at the moment, personal best sector 1, personal best sector 2, personal best sector 3, into the final sector, 4 sectors on this circuit. This should be an improvement. I'm guessing he'll go from 16th up to around 8th or 9th here.
Let's see what Alex Newton does. Looks like doesn't look like it actually counted. Oh yeah, 27.645 for him. Well, he's going to have to start looking over his shoulder because Peter Biancucci just set a 1 minute 27.682, 4 hundredths behind him, so he's going to have to find a little bit more time. Here comes Grant Johnson to the line, and that's going to be a 29.231. That's nowhere close to the times that he has been setting. 27.114 is the time he's set so far. The times are actually looking respectably close depending on where you look. I mean, you've got Lutzu, Leonard and Harvey covered by 0.2 of a second. You've got Clint Harvey all the way down to Ray Oliver in 8th, separated by less than or about 0.2 of a second. And the times are just keeping close throughout the rest of the field. This is really awesome to see. It should make for some great racing as Joe Capone sets a 27.8.
One's 0.2 of a second, improves 1 position. And Franz Estabauer, as a few drivers actually now starting to abort their laps. They've realised that they've got the best out of the tyres that they're going to get. Conditions are quite difficult as well with the amount of wear that there is in the track. Still 55.6 degree track conditions. Are very, very hot. Wouldn't want to go out there without anything on your feet, as Newton does improve this time to 14th position.
Just pipping Bent Johannesson and setting a 1 minute 27.317. Brody Watts in the V-Race Experience Car 11. Of course, V-Race Experience, another one of our series sponsors, supporters of this series. Looking to find a bit of improvement here. Only setting a 28.9 on his first lap. He's already been back to the pits once to get some fresh tyres. Let's see if there's any improvement for him here coming through the final couple of turns. And clambering over that apex curb you were talking about earlier, Jay, at the second last corner. Seems like a nice clean end to the lap for Brody Watts.
It's looked very good. Sector times all personal best for him too. His current best lap is a 28.9. I'll tell you what, that's a big improvement. Slots straight up into 4th position.
Excellent stuff from Brody Watts. He's been one of those drivers threatening for podiums and top 5s throughout the season, and it looks like it's more of the same for him this time round at Okayama. He'll certainly be happy with that.
Dean Hunt's personal best 1st, 2nd and 3rd sector as well, so this should be an improvement from the currently 22nd place driver. Current best of a 28.7. So he should skyrocket up the timing tower if he can finish the lap off. But I tell you what, you might have lost a 10th or 2 there.
Well, it'll definitely be an improvement on a 28.9. It's going to be up to 28.18. That's good enough for P21. Just pipping John Lee. And something I'm noticing here as I see drivers practicing pit lane entry is they're actually slowing down a bit too early, and the pit entry here at Okayama can be a bit misleading. The iRacing pit entry is denoted by the yellow cones on the exit, but there is a pit speed limit line right there. See, that driver's got the right idea, slowing down for the yellow cones, but the majority of drivers I've seen, it's Ross Thalen who's done it, the majority of drivers I've seen are actually slowing down to pit speed limit at that marker line that comes before the yellow cones. So that could potentially prove a big difference maker in race 2.
Funny you talk about that. I actually was talking to a couple of drivers from the Aussie Car Turbo Touring Car Series about this exact same thing the other night. We were saying that there's nothing as strange as a race at Okayama and watching guys that haven't practiced pit entry. We were talking about different techniques and what you can do to improve your racecraft and find time and things like that. One thing we talk about on every broadcast that's got a pit stop is how much time you gain in the pit lane and how much easier it is to gain time in the pit lane and make overtakes in the pits. This track is the prime example of that. You can tell who practices the pit lane and who doesn't just based on that one pit entry. You find yourself losing about 2, 3, even 4 seconds at this track if you slow down too early.
Yeah, that's pretty crazy. So hopefully the drivers that have been slowing down too early realize what's going on and nail that pit entry the second time round. Otherwise, they're going to lose bulk seconds of time as we check out Mason Harvey coming up to the end of another lap here in car number 54 for Energy Motorsports. He's looked a bit ragged on this one. I saw him taking a couple of trips through the grass. This may very well be a lap that doesn't count, but we'll have to wait and see. 1 minute 26.983 and actually has counted, but unfortunately not an improvement. He's going to have to find a little more time. Meanwhile, Trevor Leonard, second at the moment. He's got to find a 10th and a bit on Gianni Lutsu and snatches a bit of draft off of one of the Direct Industries cars down the back stretch. Maybe a little bit deep into the hairpin, didn't quite hook up the apex, but you can easily gain time on the exit of that corner. And this is a very technical section, and it's very hard to nail the throttle application out of that left-hander as well. You can see him trying to work the wheel, get the traction down as best he can, and this is all about braking performance and mid-corner speed, this final sector.
You're talking about that mid-sector there as well. I think the thing that makes it so difficult, the first part of that, the first left-hander, it's not quite 90 degrees, but it's downhill, so you have to use a bit more wheel. The second one is more than 90 degrees, but it's flat, so both corners, while they're different shapes, they almost drive the same, and I think that catches a lot of drivers out that aren't quite as experienced as
there we go.
The line, P1. What a lap.
Excellent stuff. So evidently that slight missed apex didn't mean much of anything for Trevor in car 27. He is now a 10th and 300ths ahead of Gianni Lutsu. So the driver of car 58 is going to have to respond.
Trevor Leonard, purple session best, sector 2. Sector 3 just went to Tyson Broad on his previous lap to go fourth. Gianni Lutsu, session best, sector 1. So we're getting session best coming up all the way through the field, and that's an improvement for Lutsu, but no gain of position.
And that's going to come right at the end of the session. He's probably only going to get one more lap in at this stage. If he backs off a little on this one to cool the tyres, he'll probably won't cross the line in time. So he's going to have to stay flat out and hope that the tyres have enough left in them for him to gain that now 10th of a second that he needs on Trevor Leonard.
Purple first sector though. First sector line comes up into the braking zone for turn 4, and he's purple at this stage. In saying that, 0.06 of a second faster than Trevor Leonard, so not much in it. Leonard's coming up to finish another lap, but this lap doesn't look like it's lighting the world on fire. He crosses the line and it's a 26.2. Would be good enough for third, because he would slot in behind Gianni Lutsu on his second lap, but still not enough to improve. Lutsu, the only driver that can steal pole, looking at the timing tower at the moment.
Well, let's see what Gianni Lutsu can do. He's still got to protect third place in the championship. He's unlikely to challenge Trevor Leonard for the overall championship victory now due to lost points and various circumstances throughout the season. But oh dear,
that's wide.
Dipping a wheel into the grass. I think that might be a bit too wide for that lap to count, unfortunately. We'll have to wait and see, though. It's going to be a 26.284, and if it was valid, which it was, it has definitely cost him time in any case. But he has crossed the line. And that is the end of the session, because we are running the heat format. Once you cross the line, Usually, you're allowed to finish a lap, but in the heat racing format, it's a hard cut to the end of the qualifying session. And this is how they're going to line up. It's Trevor Leonard and Gianni Lutzu on the front row. That's certainly something we've seen a few times this season. Mason Harvey and Tyson Broad, 3rd and 4th, with Brody Watts and Clint Harvey in 5th and 6th positions. Mike Pepper and Justin McLean will take up row 4. And then it's Ray Oliver and Cameron Edwards, 9th and 10th. The top 12 rounded out by Grant Johnson and Neil Woodburn. Very close times all the way through.
Yeah, definitely a very, very close field. Alex Zani and Peter Biancucci on row number 7 with Anthony Jewell and Alex Newton on row 8. Bent Johannesson and then Ross Thelen on the 9th row. Rounding out the top 20 will be Joe Capone and Franz Esterbauer. Then we've got Dean Hunt, Andrew Lachlan and John Lee, the last of our drivers to post lap times. And there we've got Jaden Darling and also Robert Crisdale, who didn't get laps in the session as we get ready for race 1. 20-minute race. Sorry, 15-minute race. 20-minute race. My brain's not working.
It is indeed a 15-minute race. And Okayama's one of the circuits on iRacing where there's the option for a short formation lap. They're actually gridding up on the straight between the hairpin section and the downhill double left. So, not going to be too much longer before these drivers get off to some racing action. And it looks to me like Jaden Darling, well, he did register for the server, but doesn't look like he is actually present on the grid. So, might not see car 24 out there tonight. But Rob Crisdale, he'll be starting dead last. He is on the grid, and he has got an awful lot of work to do here. He had a pretty good result in race 1 at Daytona, but it all went a cropper for him in race 2. So he'll be looking for some big points coming out of round 5 here at Okayama as the pace car pulls away. And we'll get ready to go. Already weaving is Mason Harvey to try and get some heat into those tyres, but the track is hot enough that you'll probably have the tyres up to temperature by the time you're halfway around the first lap.
It won't take much to get too much heat in the tyres, will it? It's so hot out there.
All right, pace car will pull into pit lane momentarily, and the drivers will get going. Pace car uses a late pit entry here at Okayama, and now the field falls under the control of Trevor Leonard, and he goes quite early at the exit of the final turn, and we are racing in the Southern Cross Esports Summer Series presented by V8 Drive Day Perth. Already some aggressive moves happening for Tyson Broad, trying to find a way around Mason Harvey. He's going to try and take him around the outside as Trevor Leonard makes a mistake. He's gone into the gravel trap. He's going to fall right to the rear of the field. We've also got another car in the gravel trap. Looks like Peter Biancucci going for a little bit of a play in the sandpit.
Crazy start. Trevor Leonard was being really aggressive there. I think he may have been worried too much about what was going on behind and then made an error and gone too deep. As Justin McLean and Mike Pepper have a little change of position there. We'll have a look at the replay in just a moment because we need to have another look at what happened there because that's an incredible start to someone who has had such a great season. But as you said, feeling under the weather, that could have got to him as well as there's a move. Mason Harvey through on Tyson Broad.
Good defense there coming into the hairpin, but it is Energy Motorsports 1-2 at the front of the field. A little bit of a mistake there from Tyson Broad. He's going to have to be careful. He's got Brody Watts right behind him. He'll be looking to take some big points and potentially a podium here, but firing it straight towards the inside of the hairpin as these drivers are almost making it 3 wide. Cameron Edwards tapping Alex Zani around, coming into the hairpin. Might have been distracted by, I think that was Trevor Leonard, trying to make his way through on them. Desperately trying to make up positions is Trevor.
Sure is. He's back up to 18th and dropped to second last. But, yeah, not a great start for him. But we need to have another look at how that start has played out. It's been a crazy start. But, yeah, I'm surprised that this happened. That first glance, I thought, geez, he must have been tapped from behind. But that's just him way too hot. And as I said before, it may have just been concentrating too much on what happened behind instead of what had happened in front of him.
And Peter Biancucci will have to see how this panned out for him Was there contact involved in this, or did he simply slither off the racetrack? Well, there was no one behind him. It actually looks like he might have made the same mistake as Leonard, a big lockup and just going into turn 1 too hot. There is a lot of dust on the outside of turn 1, so you do have to be careful there as it's still on for second here. Mason Harvey trying his best to defend from Tyson Broad, and he's not giving an inch at all. Will Broad have a good run here into the hairpins? He pulls out for a move and big dive up the inside, and the door was almost shut there by Mason Harvey, but Tyson Broad forced it back open. He's up into second now.
Brody Watts thought about for a second following Tyson Broad through and then thought, no, I'm just going to sit back, wait, because there's contact brewing here. In hindsight, he's probably now regretting that decision, but originally I think it was a good move. Mike Pepper as well has just had a huge mistake. And, Ray Oliver, hold on to it. And he does.
Wow, goodness me. He's going to lose a couple of positions out of that, though, as the mindset car of Mike Pepper trying his best to defend from Clint Harvey here. We ride on board with car number 15, Mike Pepper. And these opening turns at Okayama, quite fun. Turn 2, a little bit off camber, going across the crest of a hill. Got to be careful about how you line it up. But we go to a replay thanks to our friends at Virtual Racing School. Here is the pass that Mike Pepper actually ended up making. Fantastic bit of racing here between Pepper and Harvey. And Pepper getting that run around the outside. They've been side by side for quite some time on this lap, and that's what happened to Ray Oliver, unfortunately catching the grass between the penultimate and final corners. Got to be careful here at Okayama. It's still a bit of an old school racetrack. You've only got grass beyond the curbs here.
Trevor Leonard's back up into 13th position now. Got Ross Sullen just ahead, and he'll get that move done. So that is a positional gain. Brody Watts, I was saying before, he may have regretted that decision to not try and make that overtake earlier because those guys didn't end up making contact, but I think when he was looking at making the move, backing out of it was definitely the right idea, because there was contact written all over that battle between Broad and Harvey there, wasn't there? There should have been a big crash between them two, but it was a good bit of driving from both to make sure there wasn't. Franz Esteban out of the pits and makes a little bit of contact.
Yeah, but only just escaping with his life. I have to say it was good heads-up driving by Mason Harvey in that battle with Brody Watts. Saw him coming and opened the steering back up to give him room. But does seem... Oh, sorry, Tyson Broad, Mason Harvey was battling with. I mislabeled drivers at least once a broadcast, so welcome to SimSpeed, everybody. Anyway, looks like Mason Harvey is going to have Brody Watts to contend with pretty soon. He is looking quite fast. Took 700ths out of Mason Harvey on the last lap.
Yeah, Watts has got very good pace, hasn't he? He's qualifying probably surprised us a little bit because he sort of shot from nowhere to the moon on that flying lap we were watching. But it just can't quite work out where to get this move done. It is a difficult track to make overtakes because it is a rather narrow circuit, and it does invite you to push yourself a little bit too far and end up on the grass. So you can find yourselves pushing that tiny little bit too hard. In the corners that you can take advantage, the downfall to it is that the exit of the previous corner leads itself to a nice, easy-ish opportunity for the driver ahead to capitalise as well. So it is a difficult place to pass, even though on paper it does look quite technical and looks like it would provide a lot of overtakes. The back straight definitely is the best spot for that, though.
Certainly is. Perth Fork Trucks, Franz Esteban just letting all these guys go. You see him briefly in the mirror of Ray Oliver as he continues to try to chase down Grant Johnson and Anthony Jewell up ahead of him. These guys are battling for 8th place as things stand. Tiny bit of oversteer in the middle of the corner there for Ray Oliver, but he gets a very nice launch out of that corner. But it looks like Johnson is far enough ahead that he doesn't have to worry too much about Oliver at this stage. And going to have Anthony Jewell still there up ahead of him. It's an interesting position to be in when you're in a 3-car battle and sandwiched in the middle. Not only do you have to try and think about passing the driver ahead, you've got to think about defending from the driver behind as well.
Yeah, in 3-car battles, I always hated to be the guy in the middle because you've got lots to lose and not as much to gain. Because, Ray Oliver's having real trouble with the rear grip, isn't he? I mean, the first incident was definitely hitting the grass on the exit of the second to last corner, but hyperheated tyres potentially, which is now causing there to be a little bit less grip, but Oliver definitely starting to struggle a little bit. But yeah, being in a 3-car group, you can find yourself trying to make a move. Move doesn't pay off, you end up losing a spot, or even 2 because you find yourself so off the pace. And if you do end up side by side, the gain that you get of that 1 spot is nothing because you've dropped that group ahead and you find yourself just building a bigger pack behind you. So, second car in a 3-car group, often the worst place to be.
Well, if Ray Oliver is having issues to the extent he seems to be, there's not much he can do to the car to fix that. The series is fixed setup, so unfortunately the drivers all have to drive the exact same suspension settings. You can change brake bias, but that is about it. It looks like Oliver going a bit too deep in the hairpin, and he lets Trevor Leonard alongside him. He's going to defend here as Jewel and Johnson side by side as well. Nice move indeed there from Grant Johnson, but Jewel's going to come right back at him, coming into the left-hand hairpin, and we'll see then if Johnson can hold the outside. Leonard finally completes the move on Oliver, meanwhile, continuing his recovery. Oh no, Johnson tapping Anthony Jewel around, and that's put Anthony all the way back behind that battle. He's going to have to try and defend here from Neil Woodburn. They got Ross Thalen coming up behind them as well. This has turned into a proper 5-car train now.
And again, being the middle car, that being Grant Johnson, most to lose because he gained a spot, lost a spot back to Trevor Leonard, who was behind, and he's caused the whole pack behind to build up and gone from a 3-car pack to a 4-car pack to now a 6-car train, him still being the second car in the queue. He's gained nothing out of what was looking like a very, very nice move earlier on.
Well, he still has plenty of chances to put on a good defensive drive, but he's not going to be able to do that if he keeps locking up into corners like that. That's Ray Oliver getting by him then. Let's see if Johnson is able to pick up the throttle around the outside and get a good exit here. Oliver defending the inside of the hairpin. He's going to try and filter across to the racing line, but man, Johnson way deep on the brakes there. Looks like Ray Oliver's just managed to pull it up though. Very well defended there from the Mindset driver.
It's a really good battle, isn't it? It's caused that secondary group or third group of cars to all close up once again. And look at everyone using that grass, as we were talking about before. Invites you into going a little bit wide, and the grass just seems to want to be part of the racing circuit here because it is such a narrow track. It's actually amazing to think this track did host Formula 1 in a fairly modern era. It's a track that you wouldn't expect F1 to be at with how narrow it is.
And how tight it is as well, especially in the last sector. Well, Michael Schumacher won both races, held at what was then called TI Circuit Ada, as falling back behind is Bent Johannesson on Alexander Newton, who is one of the smaller gainers in the field. He's now up 2 positions from where he started, but Joe Capone up 3 and looking to gain more here. Got Bent right in front of him, and going for a late dive there is very tempting with the way the track widens and bends to the left into a right-hander, but still a bit too far back to make the move work. Looks like one of the bigger movers in this field is Anthony Jewell. He's up 4 positions now. Jewell, I think, was a bit higher up a bit earlier. Yeah, of course, because he just had that incident with Grant Johnson. Until then, he was the biggest mover in the field. This is on board with Brodie Watts, and something might have gone wrong for him here.
Just the wheel coming out of the next corner here. So this corner here, just a nice entry. A little bit wide. Hang on to it, hang on to it. Almost shoots it straight into the fence. Good recovery.
Yeah, Good recovery indeed, but that has cost him some time to Mason Harvey and Tyson Broad. And speaking of Mason Harvey and Tyson Broad, they are back together. Mason is going to try and get one back here on Tyson in the last 3 minutes of the race.
Not much racing left in this one, as I just see a black flag coming through from race control.
For Alexander Newton.
Alexander Newton. So the 13 car of Alexander Newton being issued a black flag.
Not too sure what that's for. Obviously involved in an incident further down in the field, but Harvey trying his best here to get back by Tyson Broad, and Broad locks up. Coming into the hairpin, briefly opens the door, but with the nature of that corner, it is a little banked, so if you're on the inside, you don't often have the greatest of advantages.
Exactly right. It's a very, very underrated corner as well. And I tell you what, Tyson Broad actually looks like he's more overdriving the car than anything else, doesn't he? He's pushing very, very deep. He's trying to get in as late as he can and pushing the car too hard, which is then forcing him to drive the car slower. Needs to dial it back a little bit. 2 laps to go. Oh, and again, that's a huge mistake. Harvey will get through now.
Yeah, he will indeed. But Tyson Broad manages to hold on to some momentum down the start-finish stretch. Is he going to try and get Mason Harvey back at turn 1? No. Not able to switch lines, and Harvey will hold on to that position then back into second for car 54, and it's back to an Energy Motorsport 1-2. But for how long? If Tyson Broad does what you're recommending, Jay, and just backs off a slight bit, makes sure that the tyres stay within a good operating temperature, he'll be able to come right back at Tyson Broad. And we already saw at the start of the race how aggressive Tyson was at making overtakes.
Just seen John Lee has a meatball flag, and Cameron Edwards has been issued a drive-through penalty as well. So not sure what that was. We'll try and pick that up in the break in between the two races. But Broad is now trying his hardest to get this spot back, and have a look who's come back into the battle. Brodie Watts, he was sitting back watching after that incident he had not that long ago where he almost threw it off the track. He's now back in the fight. He'll have 1 lap to potentially steal a second out of this battle. Another battle that we've got to talk about too is this one here. This is 11th, 12th, 13th and 14th position. Neil Woodburn currently 12th. Ross Thallon and Alexander Newton 13th and 14th are just outside that magical reverse grid pole. But this is still on here as well.
Indeed it is, and with the way Anthony Jewell and Nick Woodburn might start battling, that could potentially give a great advantage to Thallon and Newton to slip into that 12th place and get pole position for race 2. Woodburn, if the race ended right now, would be the driver that starts on pole position. It is the final lap though. There's still another 3.72 kilometers to try and sort this one out. But the final lap has started for Gianni Lutzu. Aside from turn 1, it has been a pretty quiet race for Gianni. He is out in front now by 4.9 seconds over his teammate Mason Harvey. That is the gap you see down the back stretch. And all Gianni has had to do is nail his braking markers, take his lines, and he'll certainly come away with a well-deserved victory here at Okayama. But I won't speak too soon. We still have plenty of battles to be decided. This battle for 11th and 12th. It looks like Anthony Jewell just coming up now into the braking zone for the hairpin. There he goes, turning in. Looks like he's just far enough ahead of Neil Woodburn that he'll be able to keep 11th place, but Woodburn is starting to come under a lot of pressure here from Ross Thallon for that race to pole position. Coming through the final corner though, Gianni Lutzu, a fantastic drive it has been from the Energy Motorsports number 58, third in the championship for him, and it will certainly be a good haul of points there. Winner of race 1, fantastic stuff. Harvey's going to lead home a team 1-2, and Tyson Broad in P3, but we'll have to get our way back to that battle for 12th. It looks like Neil Woodburn has managed to gain a little gap on Ross Thallon for the time being as Alexander Newton comes into the pits right on the final lap. I think that might be a little too late to serve that penalty, but there we go. That will confirm Neil Woodburn is your pole sitter for race 2 for Team Loud Signs.
Yep, so that's a great result for Woodburn. And remember, he started in 12th as well. So holding the position, if you're starting in 12th in race 1, you'd hope that you can at least hold your position, maybe gain. But Team Photo and Team Donuts, Team Burnouts on the back straight. Very, very good team result.
Excellent stuff there for the Energy Motorsport boys. Well, now we can take a moment to step aside here on SimSpeed TV, but before that, we will go through these results. 4.7 seconds at the end was Gianni Lutzu over Mason Harvey, with Broad, Watson, McLean rounding out the top 5. Great stuff from Justin McLean, gaining 3 positions. Mike Pepper will come home in 6th, and then 7th, Clint Harvey. Trevor Leonard recovers to finish in 8th place. Not a bad run at all, considering his mistake at turn 1, with Ray Oliver and Grant Johnson rounding out the top 10.
Yeah, there we go over the page to Anthony Jewell, and then Neil Woodburn in 12th position, who will start the next race on pole. Rosellen and Alexani, they'll start at the back of the field where they finished. Unfortunate for those guys to miss out on the reverse grid section, but they will start 13th and 14th. Joe Capone in 15th, Dean Hunt 16th, Peter Bancucci in 17th position, Bent Johannesson, Rob Crisdale and Alex Newton. Then it's a tale of woe from here on back. Cameron Edwards, John Lee, Franz Esterbauer, Andrew Lachlan, and Jaden Darling, as you said, couldn't quite take the start. But, what a start to the night. What a first race. We've still got one more to go. Pit stops as well.
Absolutely. It's going to be an interesting one, isn't it? Certainly looking to get some great racing here in the Southern Cross Esports Summer Series, presented by V8 Drive Day Perth, West Australian Automotive Equipment, Word of Mouth Signs, and V-Race Experience. We'll be back very soon here on SimSpeed TV.
Fantastic. This is GT racing right now. He's got traction. He's got everything outside of both of them. Maloney.
Oh, he's taken Anderson. Anderson's up top
Oh
here.
my God. Oh, big crash. Oh my goodness. Half the field's going to get rolled.
Second very close. These guys I want to make their way through the field very quickly. Oh, there we go. Oh no, that's massive. This is it. This is over. I can't believe this. Oh my God.
God, what?
You're watching the Southern Cross Esports Summer Series presented by V8 Drive Day Perth here on SimSpeed TV. We've just come off an incredible race 1 at Okayama with plenty of big racing action. I'm Reese Gardner, Jay Kennedy alongside me and directing. But we're going to take a look here, Jay, at what happened to John Lee on lap 8 of race 1. You noted he had a meatball flag, and this is why.
Yeah, we weren't exactly sure. We saw a couple of penalties come in straight after we noticed him have the meatball flag, but just ended up getting a little bit of contact there from the 115 of Andrew Lachlan. And my original thinking was that there was something a lot more malicious involved, because there was 2 penalties handed out to 2 different drivers straight after that incident. But unfortunate for John that he's had that contact. But I tell you what, to drive at home with that much damage is quite an achievement. He's done very, very well.
Yeah, indeed. The rear wing's certainly looking substandard there. Well, we've still got a bit of time here to go through what's going to happen in the future of the series. The final round of the championship will be at Bathurst on February the 23rd. I'm really looking forward to that one. Nothing better than to round out a Great Australian Sim Racing series at a Great Australian circuit.
Yep, Bathurst is the perfect place to finish a championship. And next round, I should say, 3 weeks' time, will be absolutely epic. It'll be exciting. It'll be entertaining. And the other part to that is that all of the drivers will have no excuse for not knowing the track, because it is one they should know like the back of their hands.
Yeah, absolutely. If you're an Australian iRacer, you have raced at Bathurst. But tonight we are racing at the Okayama International Circuit. One of the free pieces of content on the iRacing service. It's included with the base subscription, and it is used in all of the Rookie and D-Class series. A fantastic track this is, and as we've seen in the race previous, great for racing.
Yeah, it's really, really cool track, and as we said many, many times, very, very underrated, very narrow. But I actually remember I was not long on iRacing when this track got released back in 2011, and I was blown away that they'd release a track for free, because they give you so many free tracks, and this was the first time that there was new free base content, and I think it's absolutely perfect track to be base content as well, because it's perfect in the Mazda MX-5 right up to the iRacing Grand Prix series, which has occasionally raced here. It actually featured in the iRacing World Championship Grand Prix series a few years ago as well, when the Williams F1 car was the car of choice for the World Championship. But for this sort of car as well, the draft keeps the racing interesting, the draft keeps the racing entertaining, and the battles are just brilliant to watch, because there is such fun racing and opportunities for drivers to put moves on. It isn't easy to get moves done, it is possible to get moves done, and that, I think, makes the perfect racetrack.
Yeah, me too. Also a good variety of corners, as you can see from this map. I mean, the first two corners, first corner and Williams, definitely very satisfying to get right. And I think this track provides a really good learning experience for iRacing rookies as well, with that great variety of corners, a good amount of elevation change as well, particularly down through the revolver corner coming into Piper, as we saw in race 1. You actually see it in the background on screen now. Piper down there at the bottom middle of the screen. Quite a drop indeed.
And you can see the elevation there from that shot too, because you can see the grandstand at the bottom in the middle part of the track through Revolver and Piper there. And then the car park at the back, which is level to the next part of the track. So the run from the hairpin down to Revolver is very, very steep. And then the run between Hillman and Hobbs is also quite aggressive. So I think that second incline there from Redmond up to Hobbs is quite underrated. You don't realise how much elevation you've got at that point until you've just finished it.
Exactly right. Man, I love this track. I wish that that more series ran at it, honestly. I mean, obviously it is a fixture on rookie series schedules on iRacing, but in a league sense, this track is often overlooked. I have raced at it in the Aussie Car Turbo Touring Car Series, and certainly it's made appearances on the Virtual Racing School V8 Scops schedule in previous years as well, and always provided excellent racing. Well, we've only got 30 seconds left in the warm-up until we tip on over to the 25-minute feature here tonight. Remember, there's going to be a compulsory pit stop the drivers have to do. The top 12 from race 1 will be starting in reverse position on the grid. And as you mentioned earlier on, Jay, the soaring track temperatures that we're experiencing, that is going to result in some interesting pit strategies. Drivers trying to split the race 50-50.
I think some drivers realise that the hot track temps are not going to be too favourable if they're all out there in practice in the warm-up phase of the session, out there doing laps. So almost everyone sat out that 10-minute session, which you very rarely see everyone sit out, but almost everyone did. Result of that, track temp dropped from 56 degrees to 53 degrees. Not a huge difference, but noticeable.
Yeah, certainly going to make a difference to the way the cars drive. Well, here's how they're going to line up for race 2. It's Neil Woodburn and Anthony Jewell on row 1, Grant Johnson and Ray Oliver 3rd and 4th. The top 6 rounded out by Trevor Leonard and Clint Harvey. Could be a shot at redemption here for Trevor Leonard after going too deep into turn 1 on lap 1 of race 1. So, just behind them, it's going to be Mike Pepper. Going to be Mike Pepper and Justin McLean. Brody Watts and Tyson Broad will round out the top 10, and there's our top 2 from race 1, Mason Harvey and Gianni Lutsu, 11th and 12th.
Yeah, then the rest of the field is as they finished race number 1. Ross Salon and Alex Zani, the 2 unlucky drivers to miss out on the automatic reverse grid. So they'll start 13th and 14th as they finish. Joe Capone, Dean Hunt, Peter Biancucci, Bent Johannesson rounding out the top 18 with Rob Crisdale, a good mover through the field in race 1. He'll start this one from 19th after starting the first one in 24th position. Alex Newton will start from 20th, and the drivers that had woes, penalties, meatballs, and all sorts of issues throughout that first race. Cameron Edwards, John Lee, Franz Esterbauer, Andrew Lachlan, and then as we said, Jaden Darling, who it doesn't look like will take the start for race number 2 either, having some issues and won't get on the grid.
Well, we're coming up very shortly to the race start. It's Neil Woodburn who's going to lead them away as the pace car pulls into the pits momentarily. Quite a very aggressive turn in there from the AI pace car driver. Let's see when Neil Woodburn decides to go. It's just past the apex of the final turn, and he gets a reasonable run on Anthony Jewell as the green flag flies, racing in race 2 of Southern Cross Esports Summer Series, and moves already being made by Trevor Leonard. He makes his way past Clint Harvey, shuffles ahead of him, and almost contact between Ray Oliver and Grant Johnson just up ahead of them as these guys trying their best to find their way through. Brody Watts, goodness me, Watts trying his best to find his way past Justin McLean. He's got the top 3 from the last race running his tail, and Alex Zani, super aggressive, coming into Atwood Corner. Goodness me. Man, it almost made up a few positions, as that is
Trevor
interesting
Leonard.
to see. Trevor Leonard, he's off. There's 2 more cars off, Joe Capone and Franz Esterbauer. But what has happened to Trevor Leonard?
Yeah, he's dropped from what was 3rd. He was really aggressive. Oh, there's been big smoke there. That's Tyson Broad off the circuit. So
Yep.
these guys are struggling with either the track conditions, remembering that their tyres are now absolutely stone hard cold, and a little bit of traffic, which they didn't really have to deal with in race 1 as Jewell continues this fight at the front. Neil Woodburn losing the lead, but a very, very good battle at the front as Biancucci and Johannesson have an issue back in the field.
Oh dear, and just glancing off the rear wing, unfortunately for those 2. Actually, it looks like Trevor Leonard, he got the power down a bit too aggressively coming out of Atwood, trying to defend from Ray Oliver, and that's why he's fallen back. Leonard is now back down in 16th place as Grant Johnson now defending from Ray Oliver coming into turn 1. It looks like Oliver might just get him. No! He tried shutting the door, but Johnson was still there on the inside. So Ray Oliver beached in the gravel trap now. Grant Johnson, don't know if he might have a penalty hanging over his head after that. Quite the interesting incident. He was well within his rights to defend, but completely alongside. Looks like he actually might have gotten a bit of understeer in turn 1. So we'll have to wait and see how that one turns out, but this is a very frenetic start to race 2. These drivers still have to think about pit stops, and trying to squeeze through on Mike Pepper is Mason Harvey. Right on board with Brody Watts, and oh my goodness, Clint Harvey has tapped Grant Johnson around at the hairpin. He's blocking the circuit, everyone having to take avoiding action. Both of our top 2 from race 1 now carrying damage to their front bumpers. Mason Harvey and Gianni Lutsu are damaged.
This is going to make the race very, very interesting with these guys damaged. We're on board here with Grant Johnson, who got turned, and everyone's just gone way too deep into the hairpin. I think everyone's forgotten their braking points, and this is going to be an awkward conversation for teammates, isn't it?
Yeah, for sure. And unfortunately, Lutsu and Harvey had nowhere to go there on the inside. They'd already committed to the corner, and Johnson was just sitting there. So, goodness me, there's going to be quite a bit of discussion after this race as Tyson Broad tries his best to find his way past Rob Crisdale. Crisdale, biggest mover of the field at the moment. He's up 7 places. He's managed to avoid most of the drama so far, and now he's looking to try and find his way past the recovering Grant Johnson.
Yep, and Johnson, one of the biggest drops of position throughout the field, down 10 positions now. You can see Trevor Leonard, who is the biggest, and that was a bit too aggressive. Oh no! Grant Johnson's made a mistake trying to run that outside line, which does grab you in because of the different camber. He's just run a little bit wide, and also saw Cameron Edwards, who took to the grass to try and avoid the incident there. So, been all sorts going on this lap as well. This has been an absolutely crazy start to the race. You'd think it's a 5-lap race the way it's been going on.
Yeah, absolutely. Actually looks like Johnson, oh dear, Tyson Broad finding his way past there. Oh no. Who is that? Is that Ray Oliver?
Yeah, Ray Oliver and John Lee.
Oh man, it's going to be an absolute replay fest, isn't it? So we'll take a look here at what happened just up ahead of the incident that turned around Grant Johnson. He made contact with Dean Hunt actually on the inside. And that's, oh man, oh dear.
So that's Cameron Edwards trying to do the right thing and getting out of the way. John Lee not realising that that's what's going on because he's too worried about what's going on ahead. He hasn't looked in the mirrors. Completely understandable. But in the same breath, Ray Oliver's come in there because there's no warning. There's no yellow flags. You're just racing on. And they've made contact. John Lee, 2 from 2, ends up with a meatball flag. This time Cameron Edwards, he has a meatball flag from that earlier issue as well. So, tell you what, 2 drivers that have had one of the worst nights, John Lee and Cameron Edwards.
Yeah, big shame for those two. Well, hopefully they'll still be able to stay out on track and get some points with a classified finish. But up the front, Anthony Jewell has run away with it. Neil Woodburn in second, but the battle for 4th on back, absolutely alive, as you can see. We're right on board with Alex Zani at the rear of the train. He has got Gianni Lutsu up ahead of him. 1 position up, Mason Harvey, then Brody Watts, then Mike Pepper. And Brody Watts just running slightly wide on the entry to that left-hand hairpin. Almost gave half a chance to Mason Harvey. And Mike Pepper seems going for an early pit stop. That's an interesting decision there on lap 4. And Alex Zani has been black flagged, given a drive-through penalty by race control. That's a very good pit entry, though, from Mike Pepper.
He might have been listening to us.
Yeah, might have indeed.
Been paying attention to where the pit lane speed limit line actually is. Of course, the yellow cones denote the pit lane speed, not the speed limit sign. Don't worry about the speed limit signs. Watch for the cones. You are watching this post-broadcast and realise that you've made an error. You'll practice it for the next time. I guarantee you'll never make the same mistake again at this track. I did it once, got rear-ended, never made that issue again.
Yes, indeed. Fortunately, I don't think I've ever been in the same position. But pit lane, Trevor Leonard also joining Mike Pepper in the lane, getting service done early. And Grant Johnson also in there as well, up on the jacks. He's got a bit of damage to repair, I'm sure, plus a little bit extra time for service. Not too sure when he's going to come off the jacks. He's been up there quite some time. Looks like he's actually gotten his service done there now. All 4 tyres for Grant Johnson. He'll be back out on the racetrack and joining in position 20.
Around about standard pit stop we've seen in this series as well, around the 33-34 seconds. You can see Alex Zani coming in. Of course, this is to serve his drive-through penalty as opposed to his actual pit stop. And have a look at what he's done. Pit lane speed limiter is on. Keep going. You can go faster. You've just cost yourself 4 seconds.
Oh, well, Alec will be definitely serving a penalty with that drive-through, so costing himself more time than is necessary, unfortunately. Cameron Edwards, meanwhile, has popped into pit lane. He's gotten some repairs done and also gotten his regular service done as well. He's going to come out of pit lane behind Zani, who did not come to a stop. So, the lie of the land at the moment. Anthony Jewell is leading by 2.7 seconds over Neil Woodburn. Clint Harvey running in third, but he is involved in a battle with Brody Watts, Mason Harvey, and Gianni Lutzu. Harvey and Lutzu pushing each other very hard. And remember, those two are carrying damage from when Grant Johnson spun in the hairpin earlier on.
Yeah, so these guys are going to be a little bit down on pace, which is going to help Brody Watts. Remember, he had good pace, but couldn't quite do enough to get past both Harvey and Lutzu in race one. I tell you what, Harvey thought about throwing the mother of all dive bombs there on Brody Watts, but not quite able to get it done. But this is a very, very interesting battle. All three positions, almost as they were, the three in race one, still battling together.
Pretty fantastic racing, I have to say, despite the damage that those two Energy Motorsport cars are carrying. So, drivers that have pitted so far for a stop: Mike Pepper, Trevor Leonard, Grant Johnson, Joe Capone, Ray Oliver, and John Lee. But of course, John Lee had to clear the meatball flag and get major repairs done. Trevor Leonard in 19th at the moment, and pitting early. Who knows if it's the best decision, because he's going to have to spend the next 15 minutes on tyres that will certainly be boiling over with a track temperature of 52 degrees Celsius. It has fallen by a further degree, but it's still going to play havoc with the tyre temperature.
I think the thing that's not helping this track cool off too quick is there's no wind to speak of. 3 kilometers an hour, almost nothing in regards to wind speed. In regards to John Lee, you said before, we're talking about him with a meatball flag and having to clear that. So he's used his spare car. Each driver in this field is given a spare car so they can repair their car with the magic click of a button. How good would that be in real life? John Lee's done that. Cameron Edwards has done that. Also, Ray Oliver, Joe Capone, and Grant Johnson in the pit stop took that option as well. No surprise to see Grant Johnson do that with that spin, probably to repair that rear wing and front fender as well, as much as anything else.
Well, at this point, Grant Johnson might be hoping for a caution period. Unfortunately, it doesn't look like we'll have the ability to do a manual safety car in this session. Ira Felberg, who usually drives the safety car in this series, is not present in the server. So we might have to go caution-free in this race, which is certainly not going to help the likes of Johnson, Capone, and Oliver, not to mention Trevor Leonard, who has had a whole host of issues tonight and will be bleeding championship points as we speak. It seems that this Energy Motorsport pair having a very rough time finding their way past Brody Watts. Yes, they are carrying damage, but I do notice that they are being very aggressive on corner entry, so they obviously feel they have the pace. They're just not able to take advantage.
The other
this looks
part
like
to
a
that,
change of position too.
Yeah, I was going to say the other part to that is, are they trying to push too hard, or are they just trying to save the tyres and make sure they don't work them too hard, knowing that they have to pit and not wanting to push too hard too early so that they don't run short on when their pit window would be, or where they want to pit, where they're comfortable pitting. So they would have worked out when the right time to pit is and understand when that pit window is perfectly open. Seeing too, another black flag was issued. I believe that was for Biancucci, Peter Biancucci. As I can see, Clint Harvey's coming in, Mason Harvey's coming in, Justin McLean's coming in, and there is the pit lane, wrong line, causing issues.
Oh, once again, Clint Harvey slowed down too early. Guys, remember, it's the yellow cones in iRacing that denote pit entry, and that has resulted in some unnecessary damage for both cars. They're going to have to get their spare car, I reckon.
Yep, that's probably the only positive to take out of that actually happening, is that they do have the opportunity for a spare car. So that is a plus in that aspect, but downfall that they've had to use it and not save it just in case, as I can see. That Cameron Edwards with another broken rear wing.
That's completely wonky. That's not going to help the aero profile of the car at all. Very unfortunate, considering he has likely already taken his spare car.
Yep.
So, Brody Watts having to now defend here from Gianni Lutzu.
That was a nice move that both Watts and Lutzu put on Neil Woodburn there into the hairpin as well. Woodburn had been bleeding a little bit of time. He knew that it was coming and didn't fight it at all. But Woodburn did it in a way that the guys that passed him didn't lose any time, and he also negated any real major loss as Brody Watts decides, nah, now's the time to come in. I am in the lane. Anthony Jewell also in from the race lead. Let's see. His practice is, has Brody Watts, and have a look, 3-second advantage, all negated because Anthony Jewell, put his pit lane speed limiter on too early. There's the loss is 3 seconds.
Goodness me, that's brought him right into the clutches of these drivers, and on fresh tyres with plenty more to spare. We'll have to see if Brody Watts is able to pass him. We'll check it out from Watts' perspective here. And there's you
the
go,
line.
You see. Yep. And there's where you actually have to put on the speed limiter. You saw Anthony Jewell just toddling on down between those 2 points.
And you could see how much was gained so easily. You come around that blind corner, couldn't even see the car ahead, and then you come up and he's already stopped. It's a huge advantage that Brody Watts has got, and you can tell he didn't do it illegally because there's no speeding in pit lane penalty. They're going to come out side by side.
But crucially, Anthony Jewell's still ahead.
There's Mike Pepper.
Oh, yes. And remember, Pepper was one of the earlier cars to pit. Ross Thalen and Bent Johannesson in the pits. Thalen's just come out. Johannesson just coming up to the end of his stop now. So Trevor Leonard has managed to move his way back up into 9th. And we'll have to wait and see if he can gain any more positions from that. Still got Lutzu, Broad, Newton, Hunt and Estabauer yet to visit the pit lane here. And here comes Brody Watts on the outside of Anthony Jewell for the hairpin. This will be a good opportunity here for Jewell to defend. But we'll see how brave Watts is going around the outside. And he's gone a bit too deep. He's locked up. He's going to have to let Anthony Jewell go there. And now he's fallen into the clutches of Mike Pepper and Trevor Leonard.
3-car battle where the car in second has nothing to gain. I think I've said that a few times, haven't I? And now here comes Trevor Leonard to now apply pressure because he's going to get through on Pepper. And now Trevor Leonard's there to apply pressure to Brody Watts. So Watts really has to get this done very, very quickly and hope that Anthony Jewell doesn't allow the rest of the group through in one hit. In saying that, notice the same livery for Anthony Jewell and Trevor Leonard. Might be a little bit of team play coming into play here.
Yes, potentially. Of course, these drivers, both driving for Team Racecraft Motorsport and Racing Dynamics. And it doesn't look like Brody Watts is able to get a leg up on Anthony Jewell coming into turns 1 and 2. He's going to have to wait once again for Atwood Corner, the turn coming onto the backstretch.
Nobody's jumped into the lane this time. Remember, in the pit window, from memory, Reese, you're going to correct me in a second if I'm wrong, but 5 minutes left on the clock is when the pit window closes?
Yes.
Wow, look at my memory.
Excellent.
I mean, I've been here for every single race in the series, but haven't spoken on camera until this round as Lutzu in. But I've definitely been yelling in your ear every race.
Yeah, you absolutely have. That's another attempt around the outside for Brody Watts. Again, it doesn't work, and Trevor Leonard tries his best to compromise his entry line. Doesn't cost Watts all that much time, no.
These guys have got to be careful not to fight too hard and too aggressive because every single 10th of a second they lose, Gianni Lutzu, who is in the pits right now, gains that time because he had clear track. On that previous lap, his one flying lap he had out there with no traffic, he posted a 1 minute 27.5. These guys were doing 1 minute 28, 29s. Trevor Leonard did a 28.6. And there is Gianni Lutzu coming out to the net race lead. Just this little bit of fighting is enough for the net race lead.
Yeah, it is indeed. But Alexander Newton ended up jumping Gianni Lutzu in the pits. Yep. Did not take all 4 tyres in the stop, though. Only a 13.8 second stop. Ooh. So he's going to have to come in again.
Yep, he'll get in trouble for that. Race control will be onto that. They may not tell him until after the race because they don't want to influence the result, but he will get told that he will be stripped of the race win if he does take it because he hasn't done the correct pit stop requirement of all 4 tyres. Here comes Brody Watts looking again on Anthony Jewell. He just can't get himself in the right spot, can he? He's Jewel is doing a great job of defending this position. The pace is very, very different between them, but he's doing everything right.
Third time is not the charm for Brodie Watts. And this is just giving a big advantage to Leonard as another defensive line from Anthony Jewell. You're right, he is putting on a masterclass of defense at the moment, is Anthony, and really helping out his championship leader teammate 2 positions behind. And you see the gap once again is the same as it was last lap. There's about a car length between Jewell and Watts, and there's not much that Brodie's going to be able to do. What he needs to try and have happen is be on the inside for the hairpin.
Yeah, and that's difficult to do because as soon as they're coming out of the previous hairpin, out of turn 4, before they run up the hill to the hairpin at 5, is Jewell is going straight to the inside of the track. He's not leaving any opportunity for any overlap for Brodie Watts to get on the outside to potentially steal a spot.
Whoa.
And doing things like this as well, forcing Brodie Watts to go to the outside the corner previous. I tell you what, here comes Trevor Leonard. He's going to take the spot.
Yeah, potentially. Watts does have a good run here on Anthony Jewell. They make contact side by side down the straight. And now Leonard to the inside. They're going to go 3 wide in the braking zone. Contact between Jewell and Watts. Take it easy, boys. 3 wide in the hairpin. Trevor Leonard gets the position. Anthony Jewell helping his teammate out there massively. And have a look at that. Through goes Trevor Leonard on Anthony Jewell. Oh, or does he? Jewell getting a much better run around the outside. Leonard's going to have to defend now from Brodie Watts. Wasn't quite well executed, but Mason Harvey is right in the midst of it here. Side by side with Watts, they bang side door panels. Goodness me, this is getting frenetic. It's a huge pack of cars here, all battling for effective second place.
And we saw just before as well, we saw Gianni Lutzu through on Alexander Newton. And also Tyson Broad in the pits. Have a look at the time left on the clock. 5 minutes now. So he's served his pit lane service. And he's going to come out. Have a look. Right in the middle of this group. How good is this battle going to be? Tyson Broad almost making contact with Trevor Leonard out of the pits.
And Broad's going to be on much fresher tyres as well. So he's going to have a slight advantage over these guys. Have to wait and see what he can do coming up to the hairpin. He's still trying to get back up to racing speed as Tyson Broad has to go to the outside. Leonard goes defensive coming into Atwood. Ever so slight contact to the rear bumper, but they all get out of the corner cleanly. Watch out, meanwhile, for Mason Harvey, trying his best to get up the inside of Brodie Watts. They're all in a line here, coming down the back stretch. Oh, Tyson Broad, he almost went for it on Trevor Leonard, but Leonard goes way too deep into the hairpin, and it looks like he will maintain the position, though. So, oh, God, they were so close to making contact there, weren't they? But Leonard just holding on to this by the skin of his teeth.
He did have a headache before, but I tell you what, it's not going to be helping, is it? He's going to have a stress headache after this one to go with the migraine. But Brodie Watts there through on Tyson Broad. We thought Broad would be the one that'd be attacking here on the fresh tyres, but Brodie Watts has been able to get the move done. So Watts into 5th. Broad now drops back to 6th. And these guys are also catching Alexander Newton, who is struggling in regards to pace as well. So not only have we got big question marks around his tyre strategy, his pace is just not there either.
1 minute 28.4 the last lap for Alexander Newton. Despite all the battling that's been going on, all of these guys, save Tyson Broad, have been running faster. So, oh, Broad, he tried up the inside of Brodie Watts at turn 2. It looks like he might almost get it done. They're going to be side by side coming into Atwood, and right there to take advantage is Mason Harvey. He sweeps up the inside of both of them. He goes a bit too deep, and then bam, huge contact. Tyson Broad getting into the back of him, and that is another position lost for Tyson, but a position gained for Mason Harvey. He might make it 2 here as he rounds up Brodie Watts. Very deep on the brakes coming into the hairpin, but Watts stays wide, and the door is open for Tyson Broad to get back through on Mason Harvey. But Harvey, side by side again, they make contact. They're going to both go off the track and get back on without much incident. Mike Pepper, though, had to check up slightly.
I wonder if Broad just isn't quite able to match the pace. We thought that he might be okay, but getting the tyres up to temperature shouldn't be too much of an issue. We just saw there in the background John Lee off the circuit, as much to get out of the way as anything else, because this pack, if you're a lap down, is potentially scary because it goes from 3rd all the way to 10th. Rob Crisdale is at the back of this train. Remember, he started last on the grid, did not do a qualifying time, currently in 10th. One small mistake from the guys ahead, and he could find himself up as high as 5th, 6th, 7th.
Yeah, Crisdale's in the box seat at the moment. We've only got 1:50 left in the race, so the next lap is going to be the last one for Gianni Lutsu up at the front. And the battling has been so intense here for effective second on back. But there's every chance Rob Crisdale could elevate himself up. All, as you said, Jay, all it takes is one mistake. Looks to me like Trevor Leonard making his way past Anthony Jewell now and starting to skip away. Jewell's going to have to face up against Brodie Watts for, what, the 5th, 6th time this race. Goes a bit deep into the hairpin, allows Brodie Watts alongside him briefly in the second phase of the hairpin. But the way the track switches back to the left coming down the hill means that he is able to keep the position.
This is a great battle pack, isn't it? As here comes Broad again, not quite close enough to get the move done on Harvey. Absolutely backed out of it at the last second there. It was probably close enough to get the move. As here comes Crisdale looking around the outside on Justin McLean, who's had a very, very quiet race in this one as McLean started in 8th.
Whoa!
Well,
not quiet anymore.
Yeah, I was about to say, there goes the quiet race. It's Crisdale, hold on to it. Just does. What a great battle as the white flag waves. You can just see Barney there waving the white. Here's the final lap of the race.
All right, this is where the money is made. All of these drivers have had a very eventful night. Oh, it's been crazy racing all the way through this season, and Okayama just showing what this series can do. Brodie Watts still trying to find his way past Anthony Jewell, who once again stays middle of the road, forcing Watts to compromise the exit of the corner. But again, Watts getting a much better exit out of Atwood. But it's the same story as always. He's on the outside for the hairpin, and every chance that Anthony Jewell will defend. Down they go, 2 by 2. Mason Harvey and Tyson Broad fighting over 6th position, and there we go, final lap of the race. Big squeeze there, and big contact between Brodie Watts and Mason Harvey. They're going to lose that position to Tyson Broad, who was right there to take advantage. Broad's going to go defensive here, squeezing Brodie Watts, who has to go to the outside as a result. Anthony Jewell, I mean, you want defensive driving in the motorsport dictionary. There's a picture of his car, but Gianni Lutsu is the driver they'll all be taking photos of. Win number 2 from 2. Excellent stuff there for Gianni Lutsu. The double here at Okayama. Alexander Newton is going to cross the line in 2nd place, but we're not sure if the pit stop is going to work out for him.
Just saw there, Trevor Leonard checked up and let his teammate Anthony Jewell through. So change of position there. Yeah, so team tactic position there. Of course, Leonard, knowing that he's going okay in the championship, gives the podium to his teammate Anthony Jewell. And of course, as you said, Alexander Newton, we're not sure on his result yet, as of yet either. Is still battles going on. Andrew Lachlan and Bent Johannesson still going at it. No change of position there. Franz Esterbauer gets past Ray Oliver, who I think's run out of fuel.
Oh, yeah, potentially.
Or did he have a slowdown right at the end?
Might have had a slowdown right at the end. Just going back to check his second last corner. No, it seemed okay to me. So might just be maybe fuel for Ray Oliver. Not too sure,
Yep.
but great result for the Racing Dynamics team there. Getting a podium in the second race here at Okayama. So these are the unofficial results we should highlight. We're still not sure about Alex Newton perhaps not taking his tyres in the pit stop or not fulfilling the minimum service requirements, but it's Lutsu, Newton and Jewell who crossed the line 1, 2 and 3. Leonard 4th, with Tyson Broad rounding out the top 5. Brodie Watts, Mason Harvey, Mike Pepper, Rob Crisdale and Neil Woodburn rounding out the top 10.
Good job from Crisdale. Remember, starting last up to 9th by the end of the night on a progressive grid is a fantastic result. Justin McLean finishes in 19th position, just ahead of Ross Thallon. Grant Johnson, what an up and down night he had. Ends up finishing in 13th position with Dean Hunt in 14th. Alex Zani finishes 15th position. Clint Harvey 16th. Andrew Lachlan in 17th position. Then we got Bent Johannesson. Then Franz Esterbauer getting Ray Oliver by 4/10 right at the line, literally, with Oliver looking like he may have ran short on fuel. Peter Biancucci, Joe Capone, and then the lap down drivers of John Lee, who had an absolute shocker of a night. He'll hope he never drives at Okayama ever again, along with Cameron Edwards, who'll hope he never comes to Japan again. Both of those guys have left more rear wings behind than anyone else.
That they have. And it's time now to go into driver interviews. And of course, we have to go first to our double winner here tonight, Gianni Lutsu. A great result for you, Gianni. You are trailing a little bit in the championship fight in third place, but this will certainly lift your spirits. An excellent run here at Okayama.
Yeah, thank you, Reese. Thank you, Jade. It was really, really good. Wasn't expecting to get the double win tonight, especially with how much practice I did. I only jumped on and did 5 laps this week. So, yeah, didn't think I was very prepared, but jumped into practice and then jumped into quali and was instantly on the pace. So, but no, definitely the races went exactly as planned. And, yeah, to take the double win coming into the last round, really can't complain because, yeah, that's going to bring me up quite a bit and close to Trev and Mace now. So, yeah.
Certainly, and an excellent result for Energy Motorsports, both you and Mason Harvey bringing home the 1-2 in race 1. That's got to lift your spirits as well.
Yeah, definitely. It's always really good to have the boys up there with me. You know, having a team that is, quite competitive and quite fast is always good, especially, when it gets quite tight in the championship. It's good to have, one of your teammates up there to, assist you if it gets pretty tight with another driver. So, but Mason did really good tonight. He got a bit unlucky in the second one with the pit stops. It dropped him a little bit back. But, yeah, overall, he did a really good job. And, good to be a part of Energy as always.
Well, before we let you go, Gianni, anyone you'd like to thank who got it done for you tonight?
Yeah, we'd like to thank Energy, obviously. Like to thank Johnny from Racecraft for building me a new rig. It runs like bloody crazy, so can't thank him enough for that. Thank you to all the guys at Southern Cross for holding this one and V-Race. Looking forward to Bathurst for the last one. And let's see how we can go and see if we can take the championship home.
We are certainly looking forward to Bathurst as well. That is Gianni Lutsu there, double winner here tonight at Okayama International Circuit. Sorry, Jay, I'm stalling a little bit because my mouse has stopped working. I plugged it in now. I will drag Gianni Lutsu out and Trevor Leonard in. Trev, goodness me. I mean, you told me you were suffering from a migraine earlier, but that race, that night was enough to give you a headache anyway.
Yeah, it wasn't the best night out.
Yeah, definitely seemed that way. What happened turn 1, race 1? Was it just a case of overshooting the corner?
My brake bias reset between qualifying and the race. And I think I braked just a little bit later than I needed to for having cold tyres and then, having the bias the wrong way around. And when I made some sandcastles and then couldn't really recover after that.
Well, race 2 went a little bit better for you. What was the deal with letting Anthony Jewell by at the end? Was that just to give your teammate the podium?
Yeah, Julesy and I were chatting all race and trying to hold off the guys behind because it was like a whole train of them. His front tyres, he said they were going, so he let me through, hopefully to stay in my draft. And then I said I'd give it back to him if he gets the space. So I did that. Julesy wanted to be here, but he's unfortunately not able to access the Discord. But he's in his words, he wasn't sure what he was doing up the front. He said he didn't belong there.
Well, certainly showed, in my opinion, that he belonged there with that great defensive driving throughout the night. And, obviously we go to Bathurst next week, or next round, in 3 weeks' time for the final round. You lead coming into it. What's your aim?
Just to survive. Unfortunately, with me not feeling too great today, it was a good position to be in, not having to fight for points. I could just, as long as I finish, I'm good. Same again next week. Just want to have a clean race, get across the line and see how it shakes out.
Well, is there anyone you'd like to thank for your performances tonight?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks to our team sponsor. On behalf of Alex, Anthony and myself, we got Racecraft and Racing Dynamics. Really appreciate the work that these guys help us with. And all the series sponsors, V8 Drive Day, Alliance Auto Parts and Mining Supplies, West Australian Automotive Equipment, Word of Mouth Signs, V8 Race Experience, and of course, you guys for doing amazing broadcasts 7 days a week. It's awesome to watch. Cheers, guys.
Thanks very much for joining us. Trevor Leonard there still leads the championship coming into the final round, which once again is happening in 3 weeks' time at the Mount Panorama Circuit. We hope that you can join us there on the 23rd of February. You see it at the bottom of the screen, 9:30 p.m. Australian Eastern Daylight Time, 6:30 over here in WA. That's going to be an awesome round. Really looking forward to it. For now, though, we will say goodbye, and a big thanks once again to our series supporters. As Trevor Leonard said, V8 Drive Day Perth, West Australian Automotive Equipment, Alliance Auto Parts and Mining Supplies, Word of Mouth Signs, and V-Race Experience. I'm Reese Gardner. It was Jay Kennedy alongside me in the commentary box and directing behind the scenes. We were SimSpeed TV. That was round 5 of the Southern Cross Esports Summer Series. Will Trevor Leonard be able to take it, or will Gianni Lutsu pull a surprise? Let's wait and see.
This is fantastic. This is GT racing right now. He's got traction. He's going around the outside. Both of them. Maloney.
Oh, he's taken Anderson. Anderson's up top.
Oh my God.
Big crash. Oh my goodness, half the field's going to get rolled.
Six very close. These guys I want to make their way through the field very quickly. Oh, there we go.
Oh no.
That's massive. This is it. This is over. I can't believe this. Oh my God.
God, what?